extreme micromanagement where somebody has to have so much control that even once the team is given 5 things to do, they need to check on that literally on an hourly basis.
Is part and parcel of a lot of roles today. We are a creative industry, we run on abstraction.
Repeatedly saying you're not good enough, you didn't do a good job, or show me you did a good job, update me every 2 hours.
Just because you've been asked to deal with an escalation once on a Saturday morning, it doesn't make your boss toxic.
You don't even need to reach leadership position.
You can be a good person and you can still be a horrible boss.
You have to care for them, you have to nurture them, and you have to protect them.
It is not my reputation, it is our reputation, it is our credibility. Unless you are willing to work with someone else, do not hire.
This is the person who signs your paycheck. This is the person who brings in, the biggest slice of bread.
Quitting a job is never easy.
Here's a phrase I'm sure you have used or you've heard: a client from hell. And usually we mean it in jest. It's a joke, it's funny, everyone in the room laughs. But what about when it's not a joke? When it's real? When you feel small, cornered, helpless? And that is a reality more often than we realize. That there are people in the workplace who create a very toxic environment and make it very, very difficult for those around them. And sometimes they make it very difficult for just one person in the room who's struggling to call it out. Welcome to Small Talk Work Play Build. I'm Subha Chandrasekharan, Leadership and Career Growth Coach.
And I'm Hasita. I'm a brand consultant and co-founder at Motley Crue.
So we've used this phrase more often than not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right? And we say client from hell, we say a very difficult team member or a colleague or a stakeholder. Right? What does it look and feel like when it gets real? I think that's what we're looking to kind of uncover today.
Yeah.
Because many times we go through these experiences and if we're lucky, come out the other side, but typically a little battered and bruised.
Yeah. And a little, yeah. I mean, I was watching Call Her Alex. Alex, of course, being the host of the podcast, Call Her Daddy. And she, in the first episode, talks about how her career in soccer was on the rise. She was playing for Boston University, and then she went through abuse in the hands of the coach. And at that point, it's very clear it's a power play. And it's an 18-year-old handling probably the first job of her life and being power played by the one person who's supposed to be on her side. But I think of all the podcast episodes that one would hope don't come from personal experience, I think this one tops the list. And I think we all think that, by virtue of being autonomous to a certain degree, or by virtue of being out there on your own, you would not have to go through some of these things. But it's quite surprising to realize that a toxic workplace doesn't really spare anyone at all.
So true. And you spoke about Call Me Alex, and on your prompt, I listened to it, a few of the episodes. And when you said, she went through a struggle with her coach, the immediate image that comes to mind is a young girl who's an aspiring soccer player and a male coach
Yeah.
who is treating her the wrong way, right? And the strangest thing about this story is that it's a lady coach, right? And the relationship is toxic because of behaviors that I don't know, we sometimes overlook,
Yeah.
right? As the other people in the room,
Yeah.
right? This lady coach kept calling her for one-on-one meetings and only talked, just kept talking to her,
Yeah.
just kept talking to her. In the group setting, she kept calling her name and saying, "Hey, see, look how Alex does this." See how, I mean, creating a kind of environment in which the young girl is not able to face her own team players or look them in the eye because she doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
You
And
know?
that sense of being singled out as well, right?
Yeah,
Like, I think, I mean, firstly, this is a conversation about the workplace dynamic of what we know and understand now as abuse.
yeah,
And the gender aspect of it, we have policies now. How well they're implemented is
correct,
secondary, but the fact that a policy exists. But what do you do about that one boss or that one client for whom this is life?
correct.
And they've not had anything else to do outside of this, and so they've made it their job to make your life as hellishly difficult as possible.
Yeah. And you on the other side, this is the person who signs your paycheck. This is the person who brings in, the biggest slice of bread, right? And it's not something that you can so easily walk away from,
Hmm.
right? Because at some point in the narrative, it becomes that, hey, if you're the victim, why don't you walk away,
Yeah, yeah,
right? If it were so easy, I mean, come on, if it were so easy, people would walk away.
yeah,
But
yeah,
there are so many other reasons why they are literally trapped
yeah.
and they
I
are
mean,
not
if you
able to
just go
speak
back
out.
to that example of Alex herself, finally the university asked her to quit the soccer team.
Yeah, yeah,
And for a person who's built her entire, she was on a scholarship for playing soccer.
yeah,
What is she supposed to do with her
yeah,
life, right?
yeah.
And you're asking for a reframe at a time when she was actually doing well. It wasn't even a question of
Correct,
incompetence in any way. But
correct,
funnily enough, abuse will make you believe that it is your fault.
correct, correct. No, so I think to even understand when we say, oh, a toxic workplace, right? It doesn't mean that there's one person standing in the middle shouting and screaming at everybody.
Not at all. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually so hidden.
Insidious is the word. Yeah.
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 It's one person kind of being targeted, or one type of behavior,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Extreme micromanagement, where somebody has to have so much control
Hmm.
that even once the team is given five things to do,
Hmm.
they need to check on that literally on an hourly basis,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And these are not things that, these are stories we have either experienced
Hmm. Hmm.
or
Or
heard
heard
from very close
enough of,
quarters.
and for years, right?
Yeah,
I mean, firstly, let's not, or rather let's make that distinction between what is a toxic workplace and what, because we work in high stress environments. It's
correct,
not, we
correct.
all do it at
Yeah,
different points
yeah,
in time for various reasons. The glamour of the consulting role is also that you're traveling in the middle of the night and you're
correct.
sleeping at 2 in the morning and you're working out at 4, and you're doing it for a reason. You're hoping to fast track your career
Yeah.
into something in the future. There's a
And you
purpose,
also like to do it.
and you like to do it.
Yeah,
Probably, I mean, whether you've made it somebody else's problem is the question that we're
correct,
really looking at. And
correct.
a certain degree of amorphous abstraction is part and parcel of a lot of roles today. We are a creative industry, we run on abstraction, right? There are many times when we've finished the work and we still didn't know what the sum total of the brief
Yeah,
was, but
yeah.
you're winging it left, right, and center. So the hope, and Subha, we've discussed this in the past as well, where we said, what does psychological safety mean? It's
Mm,
not an excuse for incompetence. So
correct.
we are not saying just because you've been asked to deal with an escalation once on a Saturday morning, it doesn't make your boss toxic,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
But being called about it 10 times, being made to feel like the escalation was your fault to begin with, when I mean, if it was, then that's a different conversation. But was it really a you
yeah,
problem alone?
yeah,
And I feel like a lot of origins of toxic behavior is leaders who don't understand them well enough
yeah,
themselves.
yeah. And you don't even need to reach leadership position. I think,
I'm sure.
there are enough colleagues who can make your life miserable because they are just kind of constantly bullying you into doing something, constantly bullying you into not saying something about it, um, taking credit for work that you do in different ways, putting you down when you have an idea
Yeah.
in a room, in a meeting. And I think sometimes women, we kind of, it's a double burden, right? You have to prove yourself and you have to prove yourself as the woman in the room,
Oh, so much so.
right?
So much so.
And you have voices who are just waiting to question that at every stage, right? So there's micromanagement, there's bullying, there is that, again, a term that we are hearing more nowadays of gaslighting,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
is really very strong emotional manipulation where
Yeah.
you're made to feel like you are in the wrong,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
You don't know how to do this, you still haven't figured it out, how can you be so dumb,
Hmm.
how can you
Hmm.
be so stupid? And if you're hearing that constantly,
Labeling, name calling, almost a negative identity shift to say
correct,
you are somebody that I don't like.
correct,
And my opinion of you at work is suddenly the most sacrosanct thing in this equation, is where the problem begins.
Yeah.
And I mean, senior folk in and of themselves struggle with this. Imagine the situation of an early career employee, right?
Yeah.
Hearing
Yeah.
this day in, day out, someone telling you that the first job you've taken up out of college, you're not good enough. You're not good
Correct.
enough. You're
Correct.
just not doing enough.
Correct.
How is that going to impact the individual? And how many people are going to come out of it and say, oh, it didn't kill me, but it made me stronger? I don't agree with that
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
all.
Correct. Correct. And I mean, we've talked about it so much when we were speaking about imposter syndrome. As it is, you're walking in feeling less than,
Yeah.
right? Early career, or you're the only one in the room of a certain skill set,
Hmm. Hmm.
and you're supposed to perform at a certain level or contribute in a certain way. As it is, it's kind of stacked against you. And then you have this person right next to you repeatedly saying you're not good enough, you didn't do a good job, or show me you did a good job, update me every 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
And it's typically, kind of sometimes weirdly hidden also. It's hidden under, oh, the client wants an update.
Hmm. Hmm. It's almost like you're funneling the bullshit down
Yeah.
instead of really sort of filtering and thinking it through to say
Yeah.
how much of it really needs to be communicated to the
Correct.
team and in what form and format.
Correct. And it's hidden in late night calls, calls when you've said, I'm not going to be available,
Yeah.
right? That is so common
Yeah. Yeah.
that, hey, today I'm taking 4 hours off, I have to be away for something. And that's when the person says, hey, you didn't do a good job, or you left it incomplete, or you need to tell me now,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
otherwise this whole organization will somehow crumble and die,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And make you feel like you are somehow indebted and in a position where you can't say no. All you can say is, sorry, I'll get to my laptop as quickly as I can
Yeah.
and give you what you need. And maybe also hoping that that gets this monkey off my back,
Yeah.
right?
And again and again and again,
Yeah.
because this is what the monkey is busy with. Like,
Yeah.
the monkey
Yeah.
doesn't have another job, so this is what
Correct.
they're
Correct.
going to be doing all the time. I mean, outside of behavior, it's also the impact not just on the individual but their social structures as well, right? I mean, so many of us are raising families, so
Mm.
many of us are raising very young children,
Mm.
pets, old parents. Like, we could be taking care of so many different
Yeah.
things outside of life.
Correct. Correct.
To have no context or to not make an effort to even understand that context is quite fascinating to me sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. But what is also fascinating is, why is it so difficult to call out? And I'm asking that knowing that I have been in situations where it's been difficult to call out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very real,
Yeah.
because hindsight is different, or kind of commenting on somebody else's story
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
different, right? You always feel like, oh, I'm sure there was another way,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
you needn't have tolerated this for so long.
Hmm.
But it's not that simple.
Hmm.
There are power games at play. Like,
Hmm.
this is literally an employer, and you've come here and you need this employment. You can't just jump ship
Hmm.
uh,
Hmm. Hmm.
immediately. It is something you've told yourself,
Hmm.
right?
And interestingly, Dr. Ramani Durvasula, who speaks very extensively about narcissistic
Mm-hmm.
abuse, she says, but that is the fuel that is fordering the other person's abusive behavior.
Mm-hmm.
To put themselves in a position that is tangibly superior to yours
Mm-hmm.
is the goal of a narcissist.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they didn't have that reference point, then they wouldn't be good enough in and of themselves.
Yeah.
So, abuse, especially in the context of work, which is what makes for a toxic work situation, is definitely an individual prerogative.
Yeah.
No organization is saying, I will drive you nuts, so you please go and drive them. Like,
Correct.
no.
Correct. Correct. No, I think, and also social conditioning, right? Your boss is supposed to be the elder in the room, right?
Yeah.
They're supposed to have your interest at heart, and how can you question that? How can you judge that? Just like, whatever your parent says, you have to agree to or listen to.
Hmm.
Not that we do it all the time, but you at least give it the consideration it deserves,
Yeah.
right? That you're conditioned to respect the workplace and the seniors in the workplace and those who came before you and those who hence know more than you,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
And I can't be the one who calls this out.
And especially client side, it gets worse because you are not in each other's offices and faces all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So everybody is assuming the worst possible. At least that's how you typically have been for the longest time, which
Mm,
is to assume the worst case scenario, which is that they are taking my money but they won't do anything, is a very common
yeah,
client misconception,
yeah, yeah.
right?
And I think we have been in that kind of freelancer space when that shift was happening.
Yeah.
Right now, it's a lot more evolved,
Hmm.
and corporate systems are hiring freelancers,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was kind of unheard of earlier. Right, you
Hmm.
had to be in a company, part of a company, even if it's just you, but call it something and
Hmm.
show
Hmm.
me that you are a system
Yeah.
somehow. But as an individual, how do I trust you, or how
Hmm.
do I
Hmm.
hire you, because you will run away.
Hmm.
And strangely, they're the ones who keep running away with our money somehow, and we're running behind them, right?
There's a whole episode on
Yeah, yeah,
cash flow.
correct. But
But yeah.
trust is low,
Yeah.
and so you feel like you are entitled to that micromanagement.
Hmm.
You're
Hmm.
entitled to constantly check in and
Hmm.
constantly ask, right? um, Coming to kind of real life experiences, if I may. um, I was coaching a group recently where it really stood out as to how a toxic client can impact an entire team of people.
Yeah.
Because many times uh, you picture the victim in isolation.
Hmm.
This is one person who couldn't stand up to it, who couldn't call it out, who really really bore the brunt of it till kind of it hit the roof,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And they took some action. But this was an interesting scenario of a group or a team working with another partner organization to do some research work, and someone on the partner side um, is really treating the entire team in a toxic fashion,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Top down, that they will call at any time they want,
Hmm.
ask for any update that they need. None of those calls or queries or updates have any earth shaking significance,
They usually don't. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That is another thing, that no matter what industry you're in, they typically never have any earth shaking
Yeah.
significance that couldn't have waited till sunrise, right? um,
Funnily, industries where that is the prerogative are a lot more respectful to each other because their lives depend on it.
yeah, yeah,
Right? You would
yeah,
never see two policemen. I mean,
yeah,
no, don't believe the shows, please.
correct, correct,
There are hierarchies. It's a workplace,
yeah,
finally, right? But
yeah,
you will
yeah,
never see two senior ranking police officials fighting it out in the streets.
correct, correct. No, I think anywhere where there is clear protocol and lives are at stake, right? Probably the medical profession, probably the services.
Yeah.
uh,
It's actually the rest of us who think we are solving for world peace, who think we are making a difference. This is the problem,
yeah, yeah,
that the vision is so big and the person has not matched up to it. You will never be big enough to match up to the vision that you've set out for yourself.
correct, correct. Yesterday, I was reading somebody's comment about a certain startup founder. He says over the last 15 years, he seems to have only shown losses of 15,000 crores plus
Hmm.
over
Hmm.
the various endeavors. But somehow he is that God who's changed the world,
Hmm. Hmm.
because, customer behavior has changed, and partly due to some of the apps that they bring out, or some of the offerings that they bring out. But you're right, none of this has changed humanity,
Yeah. Yeah. So
right?
let's be a little.
Yeah, yeah. But coming back to this team, and it was impacting people across, from somebody who's new, somebody who's young, somebody who's been in that organization for 5-10 years, to the senior leader, saying we don't know how to deal with this one individual on the client side, because they are repeatedly calling, breaking any boundaries that we set.
There are no boundaries. I think that's the first thing we need to understand. The boundaries are shifting goalposts being defined by the other person here.
Mm,
I have recently had the great misfortune of being that filter between that person and the rest of the team and whatever
mm,
that meant, right?
mm,
Whether that is internal stakeholders, external stakeholders. You can be a good person and you can still be a horrible boss. I
mm,
think that is the thing that we don't accept sufficiently enough of, because your credibility, where you have put that at stake or where you have taken a swing that is too big for you,
mm,
at that point, who are you? Is the
mm,
question, right? That is where your integrity comes into the picture. That is where your ability to, because once you reach a stage where you're managing even one more person, I think we all need to know this and hear this. It is not about us anymore.
yeah,
We are not the center of the universe beyond that point.
yeah,
Can we take that perspective? right? It is not my reputation. It is our reputation. It is our
Yeah.
credibility. Unless you are willing to work with someone else, do not hire.
Yeah. No, you have taken on that responsibility. You're right. The minute you start building a team, right? They are your people,
Yeah,
and you have to care for them. You have to nurture them, and you have to protect them,
yeah.
right?
Because here's the thing, some people will actually kill themselves for that vision. Have you
Mm.
showed up for those people? Have you demonstrated some empathy for the rest of their lives?
Mm.
Right? Or has it always been me, me, me? Like that's always a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. And something that we started talking about, that there's a difference between toxicity and office politics, right?
Hmm.
Um,
That other favorite
yeah,
game we
yeah.
love to
And I
hate.
think that is just an outcome of human behavior, putting, you know, three people
Put
in a
four
room.
people in a room, some
Yeah,
dynamic will
correct,
emerge.
correct.
One would hope it's a bearable dynamic, if
Yeah,
not a,
yeah.
yeah.
And sometimes a little bit of it is healthy, right? There's that healthy competition,
Yeah, yeah,
or there is wanting to have a bit of one-upmanship, making a better presentation than the next guy,
yeah.
or winning a deal before somebody else, and sometimes withholding a little information. Those are all office games.
Rivalries, so to speak.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But toxicity is very intense and kind of continuous in nature.
Mm. And you will feel it. You will feel it in your body. You will feel it when you wake up at 2 in the morning because you're freaked out and you're anxious. You will know.
Yeah,
And that kind of, and I feel like this is important to understand that in that toxic dynamic, nobody is wrong from their perspective.
yeah.
There is no individual on the planet who's going to stand up tomorrow and admit, oh, I was horrible, but from now I'm going to be. It's not going to happen.
Mm,
And I think we all wait for that fairy tale ending, that if I
yeah,
put up with this enough, and God knows we are conditioned enough to believe that that's how it'll be, because we've seen enough of it in the rest of our lives. There is no sufficient putting up that you can do that will change another person.
yeah, yeah. No, very early in my facilitation avatar, right? Signed up for a client. Two of us signed up for a client. We were to be co facilitators for a training journey. And from meeting one, right, anything and everything we said was questioned. And I think that was the writing on the wall, which we didn't see,
Hmm.
because it was a good opportunity, it was good business, it was a field we wanted to train in, so many things, right? Tick so many other boxes. But this one individual, the founder, was spewing venom at us from day one. And this
Hmm.
is all hindsight, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
takes you a while to figure it
I
out.
understand.
So,
Yeah.
whatever we suggested as either a topic for the training or a methodology or anything, she questioned. We had to explain ourselves multiple times, keep revising the proposal, etc., etc., till finally she kind of half-heartedly agreed on something. And maybe because by that time we had no energy to fight the commercials, like I
Hmm.
think she
Hmm.
wouldn't have gotten it cheaper,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I remember the morning of that training, both the co-facilitator and I walked into that hotel training room, and we both looked at each other and said, like, did you sleep? And we're like, no, I cannot sleep till this thing is over,
Yeah.
because we finish today and then we tell her we're not doing anything else
Hmm.
further, right? But I have never felt worse in my body
Yeah.
than that morning, that I have to now last these 8 hours where I'm genuinely trying to train a group of 20 people. And there's going to be this person at the back who just questions everything, yells, shouts. That's literally what she did.
And we say, oh, but that's how we innovate. We question the
Huh.
norms.
Yeah.
We question everything. That's how we innovate. No, please question everything, no doubt. But that's
Yeah.
not why you're
Yeah.
doing it. Cause and
Correct.
effect are
Correct.
messed up here.
Correct. Because she would call us to the side and say, but anyway, they're idiots. They need to hear this. I need to be the, tough voice in the room.
So you were the shoulder from which the gun was being.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that happens very often,
Yeah.
as a facilitator or as a coach. You're the shoulder
Yeah, or
that
as a consultant, honestly. Like
correct,
we've done
correct,
that dirty work.
correct.
Yeah.
You're the manager who doesn't want to give feedback. Let's appoint a coach and get the feedback
Through them.
through
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
right? Um, I've I think, and that's what this kind of toxicity is very different from day to day politics and day
Yeah.
to day
Yeah.
little games people play.
Or even the irritants that are sometimes
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
inherent to the job,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like if you're an account manager, you will I mean, the job is to receive calls, and it's
Correct. Correct.
hate-worthy, honestly, but that's what it is. Like, what
Correct,
are you going to
correct,
do?
correct. Yeah, if you're in any kind of customer facing role, the incoming is not
Yeah,
easy to handle
yeah,
always, right?
yeah,
There's irate customers, there's and something that's not gone right, something that's not been delivered on time, and all of those are one-off transactional, right? There's no kind of deep intent and malice
yeah.
which
Malice
these,
is the word.
right?
Yeah,
It really, when you look back, they're all there is some
malicious
malice.
on some level.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. And I think the question that then comes up is, what do you do?
you leave. There's no. I mean, I know as we were prepping for this episode, we
Mm,
really looked at
mm,
examples, both from our own experiences and outside, to say, is there any other option? Like,
mm,
because
mm,
leave is not an option
mm.
for a lot of us.
Yeah, or I think at least leave comes after you've tried some things, right?
Yeah,
Because again, it's kind of a little inherent in all of us to say, but did I
I
try?
tried.
Because
Yeah,
I'm the victim. I'm at fault, right? I was not good enough,
yeah, yeah,
and I was not delivering, or I was not what they expected, and hence I'm the problem,
yeah.
right? And hence I have to try before I leave, which is fair. I think not everyone has the luxury or privilege to just say, tomorrow I sign off
Exactly.
and walk away. So I think the first thing is to just at least regulate in those micro instances,
Hmm.
right? At least step away, take a deep breath, grab your coffee in that moment,
Hmm.
right? When
Hmm.
somebody is uh, in some way or form attacking you, try and step out and say, can we take a break? Can I come back after 5 minutes? Can I put my thoughts together? I'd like to respond
Hmm.
after 10 minutes, right? um, in some cases, as a leader, you try and create a buffer layer, right? You protect your team,
Hmm.
like you said.
Hmm.
You become the buffer, hoping that that changes the power game
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
some extent, right? I've had many founders say they're a very difficult client, but then to me they're very sweet,
Hmm.
right? So I take the load of
Managing, so to
being
speak.
that
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
buffer. I think what also helps is to name it, at least in your space,
Hmm.
to tell
Hmm.
your colleagues that, hey, this is micromanagement or this is bullying,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Call it out, voice it, document it if you can,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Because if you're going to take some kind of action, you need
Proof
to,
becomes
yeah,
important.
proof
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
whatever reason does become important,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So I think to do that is also important in when you're part of a system,
Hmm. Hmm.
and when you want to at some point you kind of literally gather the courage to call it out,
Yeah.
or to say, I'm leaving because of this, and this is what
Yeah.
it looked like over the last 6 months or 1 year or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. And then at some point, yeah, like you've tried setting your boundaries, you've tried saying, hey, weekends are not okay for me, can you not call, I have other commitments, you've tried all of that. Yeah, at some point you say, is it worth it?
Yeah. Yeah. And then begins the very long process of accepting that it never was to
Yeah,
begin with. And
it never was worth it, it never was your fault.
yeah. And the fact that somewhere you started out with the belief that it would be okay or it would work out well. And firstly, you have to accept your own disappointment to
Mm,
say, oh, it didn't. And then you have to accept that you were not the cause of it on
mm,
some level.
yeah,
Again, I think it's also a personality dynamic. We all know people who thrive in workplaces that the rest of us would probably tear each other's hair
yeah,
out
yeah.
of. Right.
That's true, right? Like you hear and some of their experiences, and you're like, why are you there?
Yeah. But I mean, good for you. Like maybe you figured out the pre
Maybe
of
you
the
can
process, right?
detach.
Like you
Yeah,
figured out the boundaries. You figured out like maybe you really have brought yourself to a point where no one messes with you anymore. Great,
yeah,
amazing. That's
yeah.
great to hear. But when you don't have that privilege or that prerogative for any number of reasons,
And many times I've heard, but which place is better?
that's where the seven stages of grief, quite literally, right? There's denial, there's whatever, like you
Yeah,
bargaining.
yeah,
You literally tell yourself that something better than this won't come out.
yeah,
And that's when sometimes that perspective that you get from people who are on your side of the equation really helps to say, oh, but what the hell? Like, this was also a
yeah,
perspective that I needed to
yeah.
know. Honestly, leaving always comes with consequences,
That is there. Correct,
but
correct.
leave. is the core message, I think. Like, if it is really getting to a point where it's a question of your health, it's a question of your well-being, it's a question of your social wellness,
Yeah.
even,
Yeah.
please leave. Right? It's going to come at very expensive consequences, depending on,
Yeah.
what role you've been playing, what was the length of the relationship, the duration. All of those things do matter. um, if you're a business, you're going to lose a lot of money, but still
Yeah.
you have to ask yourself the question of, at what cost?
No, I think that's important. It's not, and just to maybe again reiterate, we're not talking about that one, boss that you don't like who keeps calling a Friday evening meeting, and but they're sincere. It's a meeting. It's held. It's conducted. Right.
Yeah.
We're not talking about irritants.
Hmm.
We're talking about people in your workspace who have kind of made it their life's mission to make your life difficult.
Hmm. Hmm.
And also, we're saying that these are not outliers or these are not one offs.
Yeah.
People like this do exist,
In abundance.
right? And, hopefully, our listeners and those who are now more exposed to such behavior, thanks to articles, social media, etc., calling out that, hey, this is toxic behavior.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
don't have to put up with it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, more people kind of speak up and question their own place in this situation and what are their options,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
you said, find somebody who maybe initially you're just venting,
Hmm.
but there is a support group that you can use to plan your next steps,
Yeah.
right? And people who can throw options at you and show you that, hey, this is not something you have to put up with.
Yeah. Yeah. To weigh your options, I mean, again, quitting a job is never easy, right? It's also a question of how you feel about, right? It's
Yeah,
almost a self-worth thing to say, I was put in this position. And imagine if you had just received a promotion.
correct.
It's even worse because there's so many tangled, stories in
Yeah,
your head about what was you and what was the other person.
yeah,
But finally, yes, I mean, the unraveling of it has begun. I think the fight is because we have not
yeah,
accepted what already is
correct,
reality.
correct. No, and like I said, for women, it's sometimes doubly difficult. I've heard of managers who, make sure that you're there for that 7 p.m. meeting,
Hmm.
right? Knowing full well that your, daycare runs out or you need to be elsewhere, etc. But inflicting that on somebody in your team again and again and again, right?
Yeah.
Those are those are not the idiosyncrasies of somebody who doesn't know how to lead a team. That's toxic
Behavior.
behavior,
Yeah.
right? And I think we need to know that, we need to understand that, we need to call it out, and like you said, face the consequences.
Yeah. Or prepare for the consequences rather.
Yeah,
Know
yeah,
that they will be there.
correct,
And that's
correct.
where your army of people
Yeah,
is going to
yeah,
come to your rescue.
yeah. And the other angle that I'd really, like to reflect on a bit is that there is that the leader of this group, right? For example, if you're a founder or a team leader and one of your team members is facing an extremely toxic client, um, it's on you also,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's a complicated dynamic, but
yes,
no. Yeah.
yes. So what does that leader really do?
Hmm.
How do they step up? Uh, because that's really what your team member is looking at you to do,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Have your back.
Pretty much. Like, I mean, just take it at face value, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's no question. I
correct.
mean, if you trust the person's competence, then by extension, you trust the person's judgment and treat it as such.
It is a challenge as a leader. How do you step up in such a situation, right?
Hmm.
And that's where a lot of the culture aspect that you're trying to build. I think you have
Yeah.
to remind yourself that I'm not here to set up a culture where everybody is in fear
Hmm.
of a
Hmm.
certain client or a certain colleague or a certain stakeholder, right?
Hmm.
So it's not about the motivational quotes, but it's about really having their back
Yeah.
when they need it, right? So if you're and usually you're also witness to it, at least partially,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you also in that client meeting.
Ecosystem, right?
Yeah,
You're also very
yeah,
much part of
yeah,
that equation.
correct.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to call out and say, hey, let's do this respectfully,
Hmm.
or this is a line that I'd like to set, that you have only so many hours of my team's time,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Show them that you have their back. You do support them. Everything is not just kind of passing through you like a sieve,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think that's important. And back your team in those public moments.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
question them in front of
Yeah.
that client.
Because lapses will take place, especially when you are subjected to this amount of stress.
Yeah,
You better
yeah,
expect that certain things are going to go wrong
yeah,
repeatedly over a
yeah.
period of time, right? And yeah, I agree. I mean, that's not the time to turn the
Question them
direction.
later, question them in private.
Yeah.
Change your rules of the game, whatever, all that, but in front of the external factor,
Hmm.
which you know or coming to know is a problem, have your teams back,
Yeah.
right? And then help them talk about it.
Hmm.
Help them maybe even share with the others, what were these patterns,
Hmm.
what was happening, how do we learn to call it out sooner,
Hmm.
because maybe one person has really put up with it for a long time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe because they thought this is how it's to be done, because they've heard people say, oh, that client is always like that.
Yeah. Or you just don't see an out,
Yeah,
honestly, sometimes. Or even ask for like a project shift and these things. We don't do those
correct,
things, right?
correct, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, finally, hopefully, you can walk away as
Yeah.
a individual, as a team, as a group.
Yeah.
You're able to say, hey, this is not me. This is
Yeah.
not on. I don't have to stick around and try and solve that person or
Hmm.
change that person.
Because also that intangible cost of staying
Yeah,
is so much bigger than the cost of leaving,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's an entire team that is now all over the place, lost confidence,
yeah,
don't know who they are. Takes a long time to recover from
yeah.
that.
And sometimes I feel like I'm very happy with the progress we've made, even in our vocabulary. Like early in my career, I didn't know to say that this is impacting my mental health.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't know that concept. I thought I'm supposed to be stressed.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to feel like this is difficult.
Yeah.
And I'm supposed to quiver in front of that crazy client,
Hmm. Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I didn't know to say that, hey, this is taking a toll on me
Hmm.
and it's not okay. Or even forget reaching the stage of saying it's not okay, but to at least have a vocabulary
Yeah,
for
that
it.
it is actually real and it's not
Yeah,
just in my head. I think
yeah,
that's a big
yeah,
one.
yeah. To be able to talk about how, my body is saying it's
No.
no, it's not
To
okay.
borrow from that book. That,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, when the
yeah.
body says no. So I think that way at least we're getting better at, I don't know, strangely survival tactics
Mm,
for the
mm,
workplace.
yeah. Also, the hope is that these are the conversations that I don't know. I hope someone feels seen, I guess,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
someone feels like, hey, but they're talking about me,
correct.
right? But they're telling me that this is what it's going to be like. It's not going to be pretty, but the only solution is to leave. Like, I feel like if that little bit of acknowledgement
Yeah,
has been given to someone through this conversation, then I think I feel like we've done what we set out to do.
yeah, very true. Yes, I mean, if it gives somebody a voice,
Yeah,
uh, openly to us in the comments or to somebody next to them,
yeah,
right? The work is done.
yeah. So, for today's segment, we like to call Read, Watch, Listen. I have a read recommendation. This is a book that Subha and I exchanged right around the pandemic period, which itself is, it encompasses about 3 years. I think that was the first time we started talking a little more consciously about mental health because suddenly all of us were going through it. And this book, it's called What Happened to You by Oprah Winfrey and Dr. Bruce T. Perry. And both of them talk about trauma informed counseling and what that means. And the question that we need to ask people or we need to ask victims of a certain situation, whatever that situation might be, is not what's wrong with you or why are you behaving this way, but to say what happened to you. And the kind of the mind body spirit level answers to those questions are really the universe in which mental health counseling happens. I have been in therapy for the longest time and I honestly I love it. uh, Talking about your childhood in the context, in the framework of saying I want to be a better person, I want to be a different person, is a very empowering thing to do for yourself. And I certainly do think that anyone who's gotten a little skeptical about the whole process, is it for me, should I go to a therapist, I would strongly recommend start with this book and see how you feel about it.
I think maybe just to feel lighter myself, right? I think my recommendation is a lot of stand up comics. I think there's a lot of young talent out there today. And the way you see them really build their career out of something that's so difficult to do, right? Stand in front of strangers and try and make them laugh. I mean, it's not that easy. But what stood out for me in the last week was this one image of this comedian, Zakir Khan, and he's doing the first ever show of an Indian comedian at Madison Square Garden. It's a huge deal, right? And the show is completely in Hindi, right? So it's an even bigger deal. And he posted an image of himself with Madison Square Garden at the back and his name and one night only, etc. And thousands of seats, empty seats, and just him sitting there. And at that moment, I was thinking what it took for him to get there, right? And what it took for him to get there was show after show, um, you know, Netflix specials, s- standing up night after night at various venues. So do catch them, do build your own favorites and enjoy them. But if you don't know where to start, maybe start with Tatastu by Zakir Khan. So that's it, folks. See you on the other side. Bye.